Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow with another edition of HealthyLivingForExpansions.com. Today we are going to make chocolate pudding that is going to be relatively healthy for you. And if you want to turn that into a couple of fancy types desserts, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So let's start with the pot. You're going to put on your stove, and you're going to start with your dry ingredients. So we're going to start with 2/3 of a cup of our coconut crystals, which you know by now is pretty much my go-to sugar unless I use maple syrup, but this is the lowest carb that we have. I have 2/3 of a cup of raw cacao powder. That's also going to go in. And I have, here we go, a teaspoon of high quality sea salt. That goes in. And I have 4 tablespoons of arrowroot. Now you can also use cornstarch, but I try to stay away from corn as much as possible if I don't exactly know too much about it. So this is arrowroot, 4 tablespoons. I'm going to mix that together. And once that's together, I'm going to add in my liquid. Now, you can add such things as coconut milk if you want and make a coconut milk pudding, which is also very delicious. I'm going to use goat's milk, which is pretty much what I use if I'm going to use anything dairy. 4 cups or a quart. Now, if you want to do a pie filling, a chocolate pie filling, you want to do 3 cups because it's going to be more firm as far as cutting and serving. And in order to make it not lumpy, what I do is I just pour in a little bit at a time until I kind of have everything dissolved. And I still have not turned on my burner yet. I'm just mixing things together. So we do the best that we can with what you've got. And it's going to kind of turn into a paste, but it will make your pudding less lumpy. If you pour your milk in, it becomes very difficult to stir all your dry ingredients together. You can see now it's starting to dissolve a little bit, and you're more likely to get lumps in your pudding. So that's just what I have learned as far as experience and experimenting. So let's see if I can get all this stirred up now. Because again, I want to make sure I have as many of my lumps out as possible. If you like different flavorings, you could add a little bit of mint flavoring in. You could add a little bit of almond or rum or whatever. So if you want to change the flavor a little bit, this is just going to be chocolate. You see how it's getting all smooth and creamy in there. Okay, once I'm pretty satisfied that it's going to be where I want. See, I like my wooden flat-bottom spoon. And I start pouring the milk in and then dissolving everything as I go. And you may still have a lump or two. Again, that's okay. It's homemade. And that's the point. So again, 4 cups of your liquid, whether it's coconut milk or goat milk or whatever your milk is that you like, or if you want to do a chocolate pie, you're going to do 3 cups. So your pudding is a little bit firmer. Okay, so that's coming along really nice. Let me put the lid on and shake it up because, as you know, goat milk is not homogenized. So the fat falls to the bottom. I want to make sure I have all that good fat in my recipe because it's good for your nervous system, it's good for the myelin sheathing in your body. It's good for the brain. You want to have good fat in your diet. And remember, fat does not make you fat. Overeating makes you fat. Mind patterns of insulation makes you fat. The correct mind pattern, you can eat whatever you want. However, as you change your mind pattern, I will tell you what you want changes right along with it. Alright, so now we've got everything in there nicely dissolved. I'm going to go ahead and turn our heat on medium-high. And we're going to bring it to a boil. And we're going to boil it for about 1 minute. Now, if you underboil this, which I have done, you are going to wind up with very soupy pudding. It's going to be more like a thick chocolate milk, but you can drink it that way if you want. But when I have had this happen to me, I just put it back on the burner, bring it back to a boil, let it boil for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and it will thicken right up. But while I'm stirring this with one hand, I just want to talk to you about what we're going to be doing. Okay, what I have here, I have 2 egg yolks. Once I get this to where I want it to be, I'm going to show you how to take the egg yolks easily out of 2 more eggs. We're going to put 4 in there total. And once this comes to a boil, then we are going to gradually pour a little bit into the egg yolks. Because if we put the egg yolks directly in, the egg yolks will cook, and you're going to have pudding with egg floating around in it, which you don't want. The egg yolks actually help to thicken your pudding along with your arrowroot, and that's why we put it in, as well as a little bit extra nutrition in there. So, after this comes to a boil, then we're going to go ahead and take care of those rest of those egg yolks, and I will show you how to put them in. Okay, so I've been stirring this for 2 or 3 minutes, and you can see now it's starting to thicken. It's starting to look very smooth and creamy. It's almost to a boil, so I'm going to bring it to a boil and then boil it for about 1 or 2 minutes. And the reason that I keep stirring it is because the milk or any of your liquid is going to burn very easily. And that's why I do like the flat bottom wooden spoon, but if you have a spatula that's flat on one side, that's good as well. But anyway, that will help it from sticking to the bottom and burning while still allowing your mixture to stay very, very hot. So I keep stirring, and you know, it takes a little bit of patience, but 2 or 3 minutes isn't very long. It's just when you're standing there waiting for a pot to boil, as you know, but you can see how thick that's getting. So it's getting very nice. And at this point, you don't have to put in the eggs if you don't want, but the eggs do help to make it smoother and creamier. You can see. So let's see if we get a couple little bubbles going. So you can see now it's starting to boil up. So I'm going to use my timer, and we'll just do a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to set it aside and show you how to separate your eggs in case you've forgotten, and then how to put this egg mixture together so you don't wind up with eggs that are floating around in your pudding. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, turn my burner off for a minute or 2. I have 2 little bowls here so I can show you. You're just going to crack it on the side, and this does take a little bit of practice, so don't be frustrated with yourself. You're just going to go back and forth until you get the egg white out. Now, there's this little tiny thing hanging off the side of the yolk. You might be able to see that. I just take the side of my eggshell and I cut that right off. Okay, and there's my yolk. And then let's do the other one, just in case you missed it the first time. We're just going to crack it, open it up, dump the whites out. I'll save the whites. I'll give them to the dogs for later. There's that funny little thing hanging over the side. I'm going to cut that off with the other shell. And if by chance you get shell with your yolk, you can just take the shell and get it out. Doing it with your fingers will take you like forever and be frustrating for you. So I'm going to set this aside, and let's add these 2 egg yolks to these 2. So we've got 4 egg yolks going on. Take the fork, we're going to stir this up. And then what I do is I have a small ladle, but you can use anything, a cup or whatever. And I'm going to gradually start pouring this into my yolks while beating at the same time. Because again, what I want to do is I don't want to wind up with pieces of yolk in my pudding if I can help it. So I just put a little bit in at a time, and it will start to cook the yolks while blending in, as you can see. Well, it takes a little bit of talent, and it might take you a try or 2, and you might develop a better method, but this is the best one that I have found so far. So you can see But the egg yolks are blending in really nicely. When I get enough in there, let's put a couple more, then I'm going to dump all of this into my pot and we finish cooking. So, okay, it's all nicely blended together. You can't even tell there's any egg in there unless you know what's going on. So back over to our burner. We don't want to leave this on the burner because you'll burn it. We don't want to. Take out everything that we can. Okay, and then we're going to turn our heat back on again. And we're going to boil it, bring it to a boil again. And this time, I'm going to suggest that you boil it for about 3 or 4 minutes. Because again, if you take it off too soon, it's going to go back to liquid and you're going to have basically a pot full. It'll be very good, but it will just be of chocolate milk, and you want to maintain that thickness in your pudding. And like I said, you know, if it turns out that way, don't be discouraged. Just put it on and try it again. Remember, I have lots of years doing this, of experience, and I still have things that don't turn out the way I would like them to sometimes. So we all get in the same boat, unless you're a professional and you've done it a billion times. And then you're going to have a whole different experience. So let's just put it on there. I'm going to bring it back up to a boil. It's very hot, but you can see you don't have your egg yolks floating in there. You wouldn't know that there are egg yolks in there if you didn't know the recipe. And again, it's going to be even thicker if you've only used 3 cups of milk versus the 4 that I put in. Okay, you can see how it's still boiling in there and how I'm stirring so that it doesn't stick or burn. But just a couple seconds left to go. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my burner, and there's my timer. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in 4 tablespoons of butter. And that obviously is going to melt really fast in that boiling liquid there, and about 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And again, like I said, if you wanted a different flavor, you can put in almond flavoring, rum flavoring, you know. And the other thing you could do, you could also put in some coconut. I would use unsweetened coconut, which would be really nice in here. And then I take in and put in a chocolate bar, 88% cocoa, and that's going to melt really fast. And stir that in there to give kind of an extra dark chocolate boost. And like I told you before, if you're serving to other people, you want to be sure that you tell them it is dark chocolate pudding, because otherwise they're going to expect it to be a lot sweeter. Milk chocolate usually runs about 40% cacao, and we're using 88%. So if people aren't used to that, they're going to think it's very bitter. But as you change your mind pattern and you change what you eat, you're going to find that you actually prefer that, and that's, of course, the chocolate has a lot of nutrition in it that your body needs. Stir this together, and again, now it's very thick, but will it set? We really don't know till we get it into the pan or to the other bowl and it starts cooling. So let's go ahead, pour it in over here, and like I said, it'll be even thicker if you are going to be using it for your pie filling, because you're only going to have 3 cups of liquid. And while this is cooling, I have 2 more layers which you can add to this dessert, which are also very delicious should you so choose. So let's let this sit here and do its thing. And then we're going to go work on another level of the dessert. Okay, now while the pudding is cooling, we're going to make the other 2 layers. The first layer, we're going to use the Cuisinart, but if you have a handheld mixer, you can do that as well. This is the blade you're going to use. You have a food processor. You can also use a blender, but this is better, or a hand mixer. Going to take, this is going to be like a chocolate mousse. I'm going to take 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Maybe. There we go. Maybe not. I'll just rip it open. That's going to go in. And because I want a little bit more of this layer, I'm going to take a second cup. So 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. I'm putting just about a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of organic vanilla in there. I have in here my coconut sugar, and I put 4 tablespoons, but I think I'm only going to do 2. And I have in here, let's see how many teaspoons of cocoa I want to put in the raw cacao. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's going to be plenty for what we need. Now, I'm just going to put the lid on, and this makes such easy whipping cream, or this is going to be your mousse layer. Here we go. Just takes it maybe 30 seconds or so. You can see how nice and thick that is. Alright, so that's going to be our chocolate mousse layer. I'm going to take that out and put that in this bowl. And the reason we're doing this layer first, see how thick that is, really nice, is because the next layer we are going to be using cream cheese. And so I didn't want the cream cheese in this flavor. But the next layer is basically the same ingredients, just a little bit different proportion. So this is coming out, and stick this back on our freezing jar. There it goes. Okay. And I'm going to empty out the last little bits of cream in these containers. And then 1 more cup of heavy whipping cream. Go in. Okay, I'm going to put in a little bit of vanilla, about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon in there. I'm going to be putting in 4 tablespoons of the coconut sugar. 2, 3, 4. We're going to do 4 tablespoons of the raw cacao. 1, 2, 3. It's about 4. And 8 ounces of cream cheese. Put our lid back on and blend it all up again. There we go. Let's check it. This doesn't take very long at all. Oh yeah, this is nice and thick and well blended. Pull this off. Yeah, that's beautiful. Now this is our cream cheese layer. This is going to come into this bowl. And then, now as I said, each one of these actually is a delicious dessert just the way it is, whether you choose just the pudding, you choose the chocolate mousse, or you choose the cream cheese version of it. But we're going to put it all together into a really nice layered dessert as soon as the pudding gets cooled. And I'll show you what you can do. Okay, now we're back, so I want you to see how everything turned out. This is our pudding, and you can see it does get a little film on the top, but that's all right. That's to be expected. That's just the milk, but it's set up really nice. And I want you to remember that each one of these could be a dessert in its own. There's the chocolate pudding, we have the cream cheese chocolate, and then we have the chocolate mousse. What I like to do is layer them. So I pulled out these little cups, which are really nice. I bought them, I think, for $1 a piece at the grocery store, or you can get them at the dime store. If you don't have anything like this, you can put it in a regular bowl. You could even use a wine glass. I've done that. And then if you want to dress it up a little bit, you can put a variety of things in the bottom. For example, a little of the unsweetened shredded coconut, a little chopped up nuts. You could even take the gluten-free graham crackers and you can make crumbs in your food processor and put a little of that in the bottom. So a lot of fun things that you can do. I'm going to start with a spoon of the pudding. Remember, there's 4 of us in my family, so we're going to put a little bit on the bottom. And this, again, is a relatively low-carb, healthy dessert. The cream cheese mixture only has about 50 carbs in the whole bowl with the chocolate and the sugar I put in, the coconut sugar. And the mousse only has about 50 carbs in the whole bowl. So it's pretty carb-friendly. If you add some other things, such as the crumbs, for example, that is going to change your carb count a little bit. But technically, each one of these is going to wind up to be around 20 carbs, so it's not going to be a really carb horrible dessert. And we're going to put in a little bit of the cream and just layer it as we go. And if you want it, again, in between the layers, you can put your graham cracker crumbs, your nuts, your coconut, whatever kind of things that you like. And we just start over again. A couple spoons on top, and you can mix the top in if you prefer. And to me, I don't really mind it because I know that's part of the dessert. So a couple more tablespoons. And you can see how nice the pudding is. And if you could taste it, well, you wouldn't ever want to stop eating it because it is amazing. Really good. A little bit more. And then we just go back with a little bit more of the cream cheese on top. Put more on that one. Now, the cream cheese is probably the richest, so if you're going to do this as a dessert, you're going to want to serve just a little bit of it at a time, not a whole lot, because it's very, very rich. And I'm going to put a little bit more of the chocolate mousse on top. And then, the other thing I was going to tell you could do is you can also put a little bit of the instant coffee to make it more mocha. And then just to show you how just one little nut, how it can dress it up. But we kind of like the smooth, creamy flavors, so I'm just doing that to show you. But you can sprinkle your little coconut on, you can sprinkle a little bit of mocha on the instant organic coffee like I've shown you in other recipes. You can do a variety of things to dress it up, but it's a lot of fun. If you don't want the chocolate mousse, you could just use a plain white whipped cream with a little vanilla flavoring in there. As I said, put some other flavors in there. But it's a simple dessert. It's very easy. It's very attractive. It's fun. And your guests will love it, and they'll want more. So anyway, thank you for joining me, Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow, for another edition of Healthy Living for Expansions.com.